and sat down and met Anthony. I met Anthony's son, who would be Joe Colombo's grandson, Anthony Jr., and a man named Ray Vanacore, who had the agent in Hollywood, Mickey Freiberg, that was going to put all of these pieces together to create the book. So when they Q&A'd me, I knew the same thing that a lot of guys that, we're mobologists, we're aficionados, right? Yeah. And we know the same few paragraphs that were written about Joe Colombo in multiple books, from Self and Rob to all of them. And that was always the most interesting thing to me, was that there was no expansion. It was just, he was, involved in the Bonanno coup. He took Gambino's side. He started the Italian-American Civil Rights League. He got shot for it. It was Gambino with Gallo and the story. And I couldn't, I'm an investigator by nature, and I just couldn't really believe all of that. So, we started the story in 1938 as a 14-year-old kid's father gets killed, execution by other gangsters, and then he starts his path. So for me, that was super interesting because I started to have his motivations. And when I spoke about, what he could be earlier on as a leader, part of what I learned from the crime side, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, was that the main reason in my analogy or my hypothesis of him is that he got involved in organized crime to find the killers of his father. He could have easily gone, he was mentored by Carl Gambino, so he could have easily gone into the Gambino crime family and been a person inside that, but he didn't. He went to the Profaci family. He stayed within the family that was responsible for his father's murder. And then we could talk about it again, but in 1967, there was major events that happened that kind of proved all of that true. So,
well, I think I want to kind of dive, because I don't want to give too much away, but the same token, this is some good stuff. Your working hypothesis, and it's a sound one, is it may not have been the mob who did it. So walk us kind of through that a little bit, Don.
Yeah, the assassination attempt, because he lived in almost
7 years, right?
For 7 years. He died in 1978. So that attempt was well planned. It was very, very pre-planned. There was months of preparation that went into getting Jerome Johnson into the press junket circle for that Unity Day rally. This is before the rally, so there's only about 10,000 people there. It was the largest police presence in the history of New York's NYPD, including homicide detectives that Seaman wanted there because they had heard that something could go down. So
and or mobsters.
Yeah, and the FBI, and I wouldn't be surprised if the CIA was also there as well, because we've seen these conspiratorial assassinations that have happened many times before and afterwards, and it always boils down to a few things that there's no smoking gun, right? But you have these few pieces of evidence that just don't sit right into the formula. One of the first things I always said to people, and this has to do with code, is that when have you ever seen a mob assassination where there were women and children in the immediate area and they hired a gunner from outside of one of the families to take care of the hit?
Especially back then.
Right. So then we lay that on Crazy Joe Gallo, Joey the Blonde, it was his name. And he's Ubats. He would do anything. The problem, my first problem, which I talk about in the book with Gallo organizing this, is that he was in prison and he organized hits on Joe Colombo. I don't,